In honor of Father's Day, Peak brings you a message for dads from a dad. Moms, you should watch this too.
My name is Bob Schaffner. I'm from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Married to Beth Schaffner. I have a son whose name is Rob. Uh, I refer to him as Robert because when he first came to live with us many years ago, probably 31 years ago, when Rob was age 9, we foster parented him and then put in the papers to adoption, and Rob's lived with us ever since. But it's been quite an experience. It's been really interesting the way he came into our life. He became available for fostering through some friends that we knew. And my wife and I, at the time, found out that we were never going to have children. So we had known that for a couple of years and would talk about adoptions and yeah, that'd be great and everything. And I would just kind of sweep it under the rug and not want to really take it any further because I wasn't really too sure just this whole parent thing and if I wanted to be a parent or not. But in any event, he became available through the foster care system, and my wife called me and said, there's a boy and he's available and we could foster parent him, and he's 9 years old, and I really think this is something that's going to happen for the good. I have a really good feeling about it. And I said, well, that's great. We'll sit and talk about it. I was out of town at the time. I was working in Wyoming. And I said, well, we'll sit down this weekend when I get home. We'll talk about it. And she says, well, I kind of need to know, like, real quick. And I said, oh, okay, well, like when? And she says, well, I need to know if we're interested now. I said, now? And she said, well, yeah. And I said, well, okay, and when would he come to live with us? And she said, well, could be within a week. And I said, oh, we have to know now. And she said, well, yeah, we need to just, because there was some legal stuff that was going on and they needed a commitment. So I said, well, okay. And this sounds terrible to say, but I said, well, yeah, we'll do it, but if it doesn't work out, can we give them back? And my wife was a very smart person, and she didn't take offense to that or didn't get upset. And she said, well, sure. You know, when she knew all along what the outcome with this was going to be. So we brought Robert into our house a week later. He lived with us for 2 weeks, and we said, send us the papers. We're ready to adopt.
Share with us what you have learned about life from having Rob as a part of your life.
Well, I've learned to look at life from a half full rather than a half empty. I found that, or I feel like Rob has taught us, my family, Beth and I, so much. I mean, we're really lucky to have him in our life. We've learned a lot about discrimination and how people are treated, and how being discriminated against just isn't because of your maybe intellectual disability or developmental disability, but it goes along with people of color and people who may be gay or lesbian. It's in my thought is it's all the same. Discrimination is discrimination, and it's made me for sure a heck of a lot better person than I judged that I would have been had Rob not entered my life.
What is the most rewarding part of being Rob's dad?
I think it's probably been the most rewarding thing is Rob is gone. I mean, he'll always be my son, but he's gone from a son to more of a hangout person or a bud or a friend. We do a lot of things together. We go a lot of places. We're into sports and we do sports venues. baseball games, you know, traveling to spring training in the summer or spring, and he he has been a real joy to grow into. Uh, Probably the early years for Rob, and I as a relationship were more of a struggle because of the education system and going through in school and whatever. I always say the day Robert graduated from high school was the happiest day of my life because we were through with the school system and all the struggles that we had there. We had a lot of rewards there too, but there were a lot of struggles. And it was the saddest day for Rob because Rob, and still to this day, loves high school and would love to go back to Rampart High School and be a part of that whole thing because he had a really good time. He was integrated into a lot of classes and didn't do a lot of special ed stuff, and I think it made him a better person for that too, and helped him grow into to a man. I mean, he's a 40-year-old man.
And so, what year did Rob graduate from high school?
He graduated in 1992.
And so, you know, not that, you know, advocating for inclusive placements or situations is easy today, but it was a real, inclusion was not even really a thing yet when Rob was in school, right?
It was right. We actually caught it on what I call the up. I think the whole disabilities advocacy thing is really like a roller coaster, and it roller coasts throughout the decades, up and down. We had some really great things going in the mid to late 80s, early 90s. I was involved in a few things that were very rewarding. Rob was growing up and went into the high school era, probably in late 80s, early 90s. And it was a challenge, but there were some progressive thinking people, and I sometimes wonder nowadays. I think we're in a from what I hear from some people that I know who are involved in the education system, it's kind of a bummer right now. We're kind of going back to old bad habits. I think our family, and I think a lot of Rob's close friends will agree. He's a guru. I mean, he's a guy you need to really sit down at his feet and kind of pick his brain. I mean, he has a lot of really smart things to say, and because of his his vocabulary or his the understanding of his language that you might find challenging, you just kind of blow it off. A lot of people do, and I mean the guy's smart. I mean, he's very smart. He's very loving. I mean, the man can read you like a book. He can tell if you're mad. He can tell if you've had a bad day at work. I mean, he sometimes thinks that it might be him that you're mad, and you have to talk about stuff like that. But I mean, he's just a very savvy individual and he doesn't miss a trick. I mean, we always say, you know, if we need to go somewhere, we have to be someplace for something, we tell Rob, okay, now we got to be here, and it's going to be on Thursday, and it's got to be at 4 o'clock. And I mean, that's like putting it on the calendar. I mean, because he's not going to forget it. Unfortunately, he may only give you 15 minutes notice that we have to be there. That's one of the sidebars that might not work out. But for the most part, if you tell him what we need to get done, he's going to get it done.
What have been some of the challenges of being a dad?
Challenging things around as it relates to Rob has been the early years was the school system. We had some definite ideas on what we wanted and what we didn't want, and we were really pushing the edge. We were dragging the school district kicking and screaming into the 21st century, and as it relates to folks with disabilities. And I used to call it reinvent the wheel, because we almost every year in September, when we had our first staffing, we would reinvent the wheel. And we would have just finished a year in May that ended up pretty good, but it was like everything went back to, I mean, it's like it zeroed out, everything zeroed out, and we had to start from day one again. And I found that very frustrating. And it wasn't so much in middle school. Robert had a really good middle school. Had a lot of things going on, a lot of integrated programs. I mean, he was totally integrated during middle school. High school was a little more challenging. I used to joke with Beth when we'd show up at the high school was people. I'd say, oh, they'd see us coming, you know, and they go, oh my God, they're here again. They're going to make us do something we don't want them to do, and you know, why do they have to be so difficult? And so those were the challenging things. Nowadays, I think it's, you know, after high school, Rob had some really good early years. He was working 20 hours a week, and that he was working for a grocery store, and it closed up, and that's been kind of his slide. Ever since then, he's had part-time jobs, and he's never really hooked up on a more permanent basis. And that I find that challenging, because he just he has a couple of good part-time jobs now, but he needs a little more, and people just don't want to put the effort into it. You know, they don't see the capacity that he has. I mean, this kid will never miss a day of work. And then if you think about that, where you work, or and all the people that call in sick and this and that, I mean, you should kill for a guy like Rob, because you know, is it going to be a little more challenging to deal with? Well, maybe in the beginning, you know, but after a while, I mean, he's your model employee, and he's always there. He will never fail you.
Do you believe that being Rob's dad defines you differently in other people's eyes?
People think that I must be this super person who's very patient and always concerned, and always does the right thing, and that's just not true. I'm like every other dad who has a kid. I don't always get it right. I sometimes wonder if I get it wrong more than I get it right, but I know that's not true. Rob is the type of guy that makes you happy and makes you glad that you're his dad. And people think, well, you know, you are so patient. Well, not really, not really. Or that we're some kind of martyr or something. But Rob is, for the most part, Rob is kind of a walk in the park. I mean, he's motivated, he's energetic, he's fun. He wants to be doing whatever everybody else is doing, and he doesn't really. He's not a challenge. I mean, the only challenge that he has is that people sell him short sometimes, or don't really understand him. That's the only challenge that he has. Robert, being in my life or our family's life, has been just profound. I mean, he has taught us so much, and we've learned so much from him. He's just, I don't know. He's like I think I said earlier. He's like a guru. I mean, you want to be around him. Uh, he's he's a very interesting dude.
Do you think you are a different person because Rob is your son than you would have been otherwise?
Yeah, I think I'm a lot different. I think I'm a more caring person, a more humble person. I see capacity. Uh, I I it never ceases to amaze me what Rob can do, and how if you just sit and listen, uh, it, it's it it's going to come, and you're going to understand, and you're going to figure it out, and you're going to go, God, that guy is so smart. You know, he keeps you right on it. He he's definitely been a real godsend for us.
What advice would you like to share with other dads?
My advice to dads in particular is get involved. Uh, there is this thought process that, or maybe it's not a thought process, but there's this feeling that mom is the one that's going to be the spearhead, and she's the one that's going to figure it all out, and you're going to support her and what have you. But you need, as a father, you need to be on board. And quite honestly, in the beginning, I was not much on board. I was exactly what I just described. I was the guy that was going to work every day, and not that my wife wasn't, but I was the breadwinner and what have you, and my wife was the advocate, and that's not true. You to be a good family advocate, you have to have a unified front, and you need to be there as a father, and you'll find it to be very rewarding.
What advice do you have for new parents who are just starting out on their journey of parenting?
Um, you need to understand that um, as a new parent, your child is not broken. Uh, your child is might be a little different in some people's eyes, but you don't have anything to fix, and that's a really hard thing for new parents to understand. Uh, I came on board, or as our family with Rob, we came on board at age 9, so we weren't really newborn parents, but we were new parents. And in the beginning, I remember thinking, oh, well, yeah, he's got this disability, and but he's had a very maybe a roller coastery life over his early years, and we're going to be that stable parents, and we're going to fix him. And I found out that he's not broken, and that's a really hard thing for parents to accept, that your son isn't, or your daughter isn't really broken. Uh, they're just like every other kid, and you need to just accept it, and you need to understand that as a parent, you're in it for the long haul. Again, we thought, well, we'll fix Rob, and by golly, he won't have any special ed anymore, and he's going to grow up, and he'll have a job, and he'll have a wife, and we're just going to have everything all lined up, and that hasn't quite been the way things were. But again, uh, he's not broken. Uh, and you need to understand that you're in it probably till death. I mean, and that's not too awfully different than any other parent of a kid who may not have a disability. I mean, it's the same. I mean, you're an advocate for your kids, and when you're 80 and they're 50 or 60, I mean, you're still an advocate. So but you're in it for the long haul.
Peak would like to thank Bob for doing this interview. We would also like to thank Rob Schaffner for sharing his dad with us.